Good morning. Thank you all for being here and giving us the time to meet with you to talk about some important topics that are going to be critical to our students' graduation needs. My name is Jonathan Tan, and I work at the Ed Center in the Office of Language Acquisition, and I support the World Languages programs alongside with my colleague, Claire.
Good morning. My name is Claire Arias Katsir, and I'm an English language instructional resource teacher for the Office of Language Acquisition.
Thank you, Claire. In the next few moments, there are three topics that we are going to be discussing in details. And I will cover the first two. That's the Independent World Language Schools, or better known as IWLS. And then follow after that will be the online LOTE assessments. And then Claire will be ending the meeting with the California Seal by Literacy. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with the IWLS slide deck. Do I have share screen? Am I co-host? Can I share the screen now? I'm going to try. Okay. Do you all see the slide deck?
Not yet. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So you are probably wondering what is IWLS and how does it get to be part of our school district? Basically, it's a group of independent world language schools. Anyone who's interested, any language schools that are interested to be at our school site, they can submit information to us, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But it is an SDUSD approved program that allows another avenue, part of our 6 pathways for students to graduate and meet the graduation, the 2 years world language graduation requirement from our school district. And it also allows students, what's unique about the IWLS program is that it's very unique in the sense that it offers courses outside of the regular school day, usually towards the end of the weekend or after school. And students can still earn credits that we will be talking about in a few minutes. And that will free up their schedule for them to take other additional courses like electives that will be of interest to them. So how do these schools get approved as part of our school district program? One of the things they need to do, and the first thing, is that they need to submit a very detailed proposal to our Office of Language Acquisition. I will review the entire proposal, and once it's reviewed, I will give feedback, and we will be in constant communication with those school sites. And then once I feel it's strong enough, then I will forward it to the Interdivisional Curriculum Committee, or the ICC. And then at that committee, there's a whole bunch of people that will be looking at the program submission, and they will either approve it or deny it. So far in my years, the 4 or 5 years I've been in OLA, almost every single submission that we have put through have been approved. And once it's approved, it moves on to our Board of Education, and they have the final say. And once that is done, then IT will issue the course codes for our school district to use, as well as the independent world language schools. Okay. The next piece that is important is a form that I always, at the beginning of each school year, in late August, early September, I revised the forms for the current year. I forward it to the independent world language schools so that they have it. The most important thing is that any student of ours from our school district that applies to their site, the independent world language schools need to submit a form that's called the intent to undertake an independent world language study, so that the counselors in our own district will know and acknowledge that the student is already taking a world language course. So I'll show you what the form looks like. Excuse me. Can you see this form? Do you guys have access to this form? Okay, so it's called an intent to undertake independent language study, and the site, the IWLS site, needs to complete this entire form and check off the course that the student is going to be taking. And at the bottom, the school principal for that site, along with the parent have to sign it and date it, and then they need to submit it to the school site. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Let me see if I can go back here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so once that form is submitted, and once that form is completed and signed and submitted to the school site, and anybody from that school site, such as the designee, the principal, or the parent or the student, can submit this form to our school district council or our school counselor in our own district. And our counselor needs to keep track of the form in the cumulative file so that they know who's taking which languages or what world languages are accessed, so that the student will not be duplicated in taking another world language course, because it's not necessary, because the student is already taking a course outside of our school district, and that will allow the schedule to open up for additional elective opportunities for the student. Okay. What's really important about these IWLS sites is that we need to know that any regular world language programs in any school district or any sites like ours, grades 7 through 12 will earn graduation credit for world language. However, for IWLS, because of the Title V of the California Code of Regulations, only students who are concurrently enrolled in a high school level, 9 through 12, will receive graduation credit. Okay, so that is a very critical point that you need to know. So what does that mean? Can students in middle school not take IWLS programs? No, they can. And so I'm giving you two scenarios here so that you can be clear of what that looks like. In this first scenario, a student who takes both world language courses, one time in middle school and one in high school, what does that mean? So I used Persian, for example. The first year, 1-2, the student took this course, let's say in grade 7, and then the student skipped grade 8, which is not recommended, because in language learning, you need to be consecutive to be immersed in the language, so that the student will learn the language well. So the student only took 1 year in middle school, and then in 9th grade, the student took a second year of Persian, 3-4, second year, which will satisfy our graduation requirement with a D or better, because that's our district, we will accept that. But in college, they would want a C or better, okay? So the student, this particular student will only earn 2 credits though, towards graduation, and met the 2-year world language graduation requirement, not 4 credits, because the first year, 1-2, was taken in grade 7 while the student is in middle school. And because of the ed regulation, the student will only satisfy the graduation requirement for Persian 3-4 and only earn 2 credits for that particular course. Okay. In scenario 2, which you'll see, the student is taken or has taken world language courses only in the high school level. And in this case, the example I use is Hebrew, 1-2 in grade 9. Grade 10, the student continued to Hebrew 3-4 with a passing score of D or better. This student will earn 4 credits towards graduation, because for both first year and second year, because the student is concurrently enrolled at the high school level. And this is where we need to be very mindful, especially for registrars, not to give credit while the course is taken in the middle school level. That does not mean the student cannot enroll in these IWLS programs while he or she is in the middle school level. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for some questions. Do you have any questions at this point? Okay, if not, I'm going to move on.
Jonathan, I got a question for you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey there.
Hi, Jason.
So in some of your scenarios, just want to triple check.
Okay.
So a student took IWLS 1-2 for some language, and they did the 1-2 version in 8th grade, and then the summer before starting 9th grade, they did IWLS 3-4.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. Most of our IWLS programs don't have summer offerings, but if they do, and if the student took it during summer and the student is not concurrently enrolled in the high school level, that still will not count.
Still will not count. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to kind of get like a technical clarification with Veronica. So it's my understanding that the summer is considered the next academic term, the next academic year.
That's for us, but I'm not sure that that's their term. So they're taking it still in the 8th grade there. Then the answer would be no.
Okay.
Yes, unless they're already registered and enrolled in the 9th grade. Correct. Correct.
Oh, and then Veronica, their registration enrollment doesn't begin until really the first day of class, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so their term probably starts in August, September. And they don't have summers for most part. So technically that they would not account.
All right, so IWLS taken in the summer prior to 9th grade will not go on the high school transcript.
It can't, because it still technically counts as a middle school level.
Middle school. Okay, good to go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate your question.
Good question.
Yeah, and so the next slide is actually a great report. So there are only 2 reports that our district is responsible for at the site: the intent to study, undertake a world language, independent world language study, so that the counselors know that the student is already enrolled in a world language, so there's no duplication of another world language course. And then this second form is submitted towards the end of the semester, and we try to align the IWLS sites to our own school district grading period, so that it's easier for all of us. And so at the end of the semester, they're supposed to be submitting the form to our school district registrar. And here's what the form looks like. And I'm going to show you an example from a Chinese school, the Senegal Pasha Chinese school. So basically, it gives you at the top the semester grade report, grades 9 to 12. That's why we put very specifically 9 to 12, the current year. They need to check off first or second semester, which program that the student took, and the grades, the citizenship, and the year the course was taken, the teacher name, and then the principal name and signature. And then this form, unlike the intent to study, can only be submitted to the school registrar either by the principal or the designee of that site, not student, not the family, because we don't want anybody playing around with or altering the grades. Okay, and so this one will come to the school registrar, and in a couple of minutes I'll share with you what the registrar needs to do with this form. All right. Okay, so the form will come to the school registrar, and we already said that, remember, whatever the grades that are put on this form, we need to take at face value and enter as such. Grades 7 and 8, we already mentioned, do not count towards the A through G E language other than English graduation requirement or the LOTE requirement, because it's in middle school and they do not get transcribed onto our transcript. And also what's important for the registrars to know that all the IWLS courses cannot be used for grade suppression purposes or grade replacement at all. Okay. And what do the registrars need to do when they receive these forms? They need to manually transcribe the credit or the grades onto the student's transcript and make sure that it's recorded that this is a course taken outside of our district, even though it's our approved course within our district, but it's still an independent world language school. Okay. And make sure that the codes of the course codes that they're using are current and accurate. So what we did was we gave a link here, and you can also find this form also on our OLA webpage that will give you, and I'm going to open it up so you can see what it looks like, the current course codes. So it starts alphabetical, Arabic, and we go all the way down to different languages. And if you can see on the right side are all the course codes that we need to transcribe. And this is the most current list because I believe we updated just in October of this year. Okay. And so the next piece, which I already share with you, I'm not going to open up the link because it'll say the same thing. And like I said, you'll find this on our OLA webpage as well. So at this point in time, in a brief moment, I've shared with you the points about the independent world language schools. What's most important to take away from this is that middle school courses, IWLS courses, do not count towards our graduation credit, but it will allow the students to learn the language so they can move up to the higher level, so that when they get to the high school, at least at the 9th grade and concurrently enrolled in the high school setting, then they can take at least the 3-4 level or beyond and earn credit as well as meet the graduation requirements. Do you have any questions for me at this point?
No questions.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. We have contacts here. So if you ever run into a bind with unique situations and you want to have a conversation with us, here are email addresses that you can send to us. And here's a whole bunch of different languages thanking you for being here. Okay, we're good? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the share for the independent world language schools. And just remember, it's one of our 6 pathways. In fact, it's number 2 on our list of pathways. Number 1 is are the students who are taking the regular world language courses in the classrooms, and they earn automatic credits and grades. Number 2 will be the same thing for IWLS. And number 3, which you'll see later on, will be about students taking the SAT-2, the AP test, the IB test, and so on. And so we'll share that in a few minutes. But for this purpose, for IWLS, it's pathway number 2. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to transition, and I'm going to try to share with you, if I can pull it up, the LOTE piece. Do you see the LOTE PowerPoint slide deck in front of you?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. So the LOTE, again, is another way of our district trying to meet the students' needs and giving them multiple avenues to access a world language program or some type of world language assessment so that they can meet the graduation requirement for 2 years of world language needs, okay? And as I just shared with you, number 1 is completion of 2 years of district world language courses. Any